invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you please bow your heads? Lord, give us the wisdom and especially the knowledge to make some wise decisions tonight for the people of Newman. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Caden?
Present.
Councilmember Kelly?
Present?
Councilmember Trinkoff?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Martino?
Present.
Mayor Fantasia?
Present. Item 5, declarations of conflicts of interest.
Mayor and Council, I have a potential conflict on, let's see here, item 10D. I've received compensation as a land use and public policy consultant to PCCP West Park. I know some people have asked, what does that mean? I give you one example, just very quickly. The managing partner of the project asked me what amenities needed on the west side. One day I said healthcare, and that's kind of where we had an expanded healthcare component to the land use map. So that's kind of crystallizes what I've been doing. Again, it's potential depending on what you do tonight, but I think the best thing for me is just to declare the conflict and back away at this point.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Also, we have an emergency item that came to our attention before the agenda was out. It has to do with our downtown Christmas lights for the Christmas season that it must be taken care of tonight to have them ordered for this season, so we need a...
Yeah, two findings you need to make to add something that came to your attention after the agenda was posted, and there's a need for immediate action. You clearly have evidence for that, so at this point you could vote to add that to the agenda.
I will entertain a motion then to add that.
I make a motion we add that to the agenda.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that item will be 10F under regular business. Okay, items from the public, non-agenda items. If anybody this evening would like to bring anything before us that is not on tonight's posted agenda, now would be the time. See no one. Agenda items when an item comes before us. I'm sorry, I skipped right over ceremony. We'll go back to that. Sorry.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
We have a lot of people standing up. We have a whole row of front seats here.
Don't be shy.
Don't be shy.
This isn't school. You can sit in the front row.
They've all had their flu shots.
We will move back up to ceremonial matters. Apologize, Chief, for we don't have them very often. I skipped right over that. We have 2 badge paintings this evening, one for Officer Rivera and one for Reserve Officer Alcantar.
Mayor, members of the City Council, it gives me great pleasure tonight to introduce the newest members of the Newman Police Department, Officer Jonathan Vera and Reserve Officer Robert Alcantar. And I'll tell you a little bit about each one of them before I administer the oath of office, and thank you, Mayor, for the honor of doing that tonight. It's greatly appreciated.
You bet.
First of all, I'll ask Jonathan Vera to step forward and stand to my left, and I also ask Robert to stand next to Jonathan as I make these introductions. First of all, I'd like to introduce Jonathan Vera. Jonathan was born in Modesto, raised in Ceres, attended Ceres High School. It kills me to say that he graduated in 2002. It kills me because I graduated in 1970, so you can see how things are changing in law enforcement, and it's all for the good. Jonathan attended Modesto Junior College, where he earned his Associate Arts degree in Administration of Justice in 2006. In his work history, Jonathan has been with Ceres Police Department since 2001. He started as an explorer. He was an explorer for 2 years. Then he moved into the abandoned vehicle abatement. He served there as an officer with towing and storing abandoned autos. He served in that capacity for 2 years. And for the last 2 years, John has worked in the records section of Ceres Police Department. Jonathan, put himself through the Modesto Police Academy. It was an extended format. It's a 1-year format. And he graduated on June 6th of 2007. So ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Jonathan Barrow. And next, I'd like to introduce Robert Alcantar. Robert was born in Hayward, California, and he was raised in Hayward, Manteca, Salida. He attended and graduated from Davis High School in Modesto in 1993, a little bit closer to me. He played 4 years of football and 2 years of baseball while attending Davis High. After graduating from Davis High, he's attended MJC, and he is in his last semester, and at the end of the semester he'll have completed his AA degree in business. Robert is employed with the City of Tracy in the Public Works Department, and he's in the Water Department, and he's been in that capacity for the last 9 years.
Chief, Ernie has a smile.
I told Ernie I had a surprise for him
Yeah,
today.
surprise. Thank God we got somebody who knows what they're doing.
And last week, Robert was repairing a broken water main in the City of Tracy, so he comes with a myriad of different skills. Robert attended Delta College Police Academy in Stockton, also in the extended format. He started in November of '04 and graduated in 2005. And I'm happy to report that in the academy, Robert was the #1 cadet, the #1 overall cadet while in the academy. And on several occasions, his squad was also recognized as being top squad and also being top cadet in his squad. So, ladies and gentlemen, and before I make the formal introduction, I do want to point out that our police officers are always our best recruiters. And in this case, I'd like to acknowledge and thank Jason Gosselin, who is a personal friend of Robert, and encourage them to apply with Newman Police Department. So Jason, thank you so much for that. It's greatly appreciated. So ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Robert Alcantar. Robert. The mayor has asked me tonight to administer the oath of office. And before I do, I just want to take a couple of seconds just to tell you in front of your friends, your family, members of the community, the significance of the oath of office and what it is you're about to take. First and foremost, law enforcement is a very honorable and noble profession because you will take an oath of office that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic. It's an honorable profession because you are swearing that you will live under the laws, by the laws, and obey the laws. And that in enforcing the laws, we are never above the law, nor do we ever ignore law. That's why it's honorable. It's noble because in enforcing the law, in defending the Constitution, you are saying that you will step in harm's way if needed in order to enforce the law, to protect the laws of which we live by. That's what makes this job so noble. The fact that we're willing to lay down our lives for perfect strangers. As Abraham Lincoln said in the Gettysburg Address so eloquently, as he talked about the Civil War soldiers who died, those who gave their last full measure of devotion. And that's what this is about, giving your last full measure of devotion to your profession and to your community. Also, law enforcement is special because when you take the oath of office, you don't have to take it. You can walk out the door right now if you don't believe in what it is you're about to swear to. Sir Thomas More, one of the best legal scholars of his time in England, would rather face the executioner than take an oath of office that he did not believe in. And in this case, you have no purpose of evasion. You do not have to take an oath you do not believe in. But if you take this oath, you will live by this oath. And this is what will guide you throughout your law enforcement career. And then finally, the words of wisdom that I can give you as you start your law enforcement career is this. We start law enforcement with 4 things intact. And when we leave law enforcement, we want these 4 things intact. Our good name, our reputation, our honor, and our integrity. So as you go through your law enforcement career, always keep those 4 things in mind with every decision that you make. Okay? So, gentlemen, without further ado, I will ask that you raise your right hand. Repeat after me. After I say I, repeat your name. So, I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear
that I will bear
true faith and allegiance
true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will
and that I will
well and faithfully
well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which duties I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And Jonathan, if you'd like to say a few words and introduce the friends and family that are here supporting you tonight.
I just want to thank everybody for giving us this opportunity, and happy to be here. My family up here in the front row, my aunts, my cousin, my grandmother, my uncle, my mom in the back, I'd like to thank very especially. My aunt, my dad, my brother, my friend Shauna, Brock, Flores, Sarge. Just thank everybody. And,
Very good. Jonathan, welcome aboard. Robert?
I'd just like to thank everybody for being here, council members, chief. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Cannot wait to get started. I'm excited about it. My family's here, my father, Robert Alcantar Sr., cousin Eugene, brother-in-law Greg, my wife Jennifer, Greg's daughter Clonnie, my mother-in-law Sue, my son David, my sister-in-law Shauna, and then her son Michael, my brother-in-law Jason, who's a series police officer. Greg is a series detective, and Shauna does dispatching for series. And this is my father-in-law, Harlan, and this is my buddy Jay.
Okay, and if I just have a couple minutes, I'll guide everybody to the back where we're going to have a little reception, and I'll be right back.
Welcome, gentlemen.
We gotta go.
I'm kind of getting used to this, aren't you, John? I'm kind of getting used to this.
Well, that's the best things happen to us. That's the best things happen to us.
You bet.
This is great.
That's right. Something like that. You're gonna have to expand that lunchroom.
They're going to have to. I wonder if we got those new cabinets in there.
They're in there now?
I don't know.
I'm looking to find a parking place tonight. Okay. We're supposed to go out to dinner this weekend. clear this place out. Your wife and my wife
So
decided.
I was gonna say, you should have waited till the end, and then we have Aaron's people here. Okay.
I can do that.
Again, welcome to the new officers, and thank you to the chief for those great words. And boy, weren't they dressed very nicely this evening? That's one reason I didn't want to go up there. You know. But it's great to see our positions being filled. Okay, non-agenda items. If anybody has anything this evening they'd like to bring before us that is not on the posted agenda, now would be the time. Does anybody have anything? Yes. No, please up here, Libby.
Good evening. My name is Olivia Gonzalez, 527 Canal School Road, Newman. I also have the business on 1452 Main Street here in Newman. And I apologize for not being here before, but I was pretty tied up with so many things and trying to resolve the matter that brought me here tonight. I guess I have to give up to do the celebration in October, but I'm asking permission to do it in May 5th. I have plenty of a time to plan and to get the funds together to pay back to the city and to pay anything that is need to be paid for the celebration on May 5th.
So you're talking about May now. It's kind of bad. The chief is obviously in the back there working out, you know, having a little gathering for our two new officers. But has the bill been paid? Do we know, Michael?
No.
Or? It hasn't.
No.
Okay. Well, as we said before, Olivia, I mean, once that bill is paid, we'll be happy to meet with you. The chief will meet with you, and if that's a date, then pay that bill as quick as you can so we can start planning
Okay.
for that date.
I understand that, but what I'm saying, and I hope that that I can establish something over here tonight, is that I'm working hard to put those funds together. But what I want you, the council members, to consider is that give me at least till February to put all the funds together to pay the old debt and to start funding for the new celebration.
See, what did we say, 90 days? Is that what our new policy is for events?
Approximately, yes.
90 days?
Yeah.
Well, you know, if you could get get to us before then for the 90 days to start planning, it'll work out, Olivia.
Okay.
So, you know, work with the chief, and you know, maybe you could submit what you'd like to do
Okay.
and a payment plan or whatever you have in mind, and
Okay.
we'll be happy to work with you. And
All I want to let all of you know and the community members know that I'm not just forgetting and ignoring. I'm working on it, and I'm doing as much as I can to fulfill the responsibilities and to continue to do our celebration.
Okay.
Mayor, I'd like to clarify, you indicated a payment plan. I think it was pretty clear at the last meeting that payment in full would have to be
well,
made.
that's
And plus additional fees put in place and paid
before
in
any
advance
planning.
before any planning would be done.
And that's what I said.
Okay,
I have
okay,
100% understanding.
okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Olivia. Is there any other non-agenda items? Seeing non-agenda items, when an item comes before us and you'd like to comment, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and try to keep your comments under 3 minutes. Public hearings, we have several this evening. Our first one is second reading and adoption of ordinance number 2007, next to number, amending Title 9 of the Newman City Code, adding 9.12 junk dealer and scrap metal recycler.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. This is the public hearing and second reading of the ordinance adopting the junk dealer scrap and scrap metal ordinance. At the previous meeting, this item was discussed, and there were minor changes made to the definition section at the request of the city attorney. The owner of Newman Recycling was here. He told the council that he was okay with the ordinance. So it's brought back for being, again, brought to the city council for the second reading and adoption. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions, comments from the chief? Seeing none, I will open the public hearing. Would anybody like to comment on our new ordinance? See no one, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the council. for some direction.
Mr. Mayor, I move for adoption of this ordinance.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Item B, conduct a public hearing for supplemental law enforcement services fund and authorize expenditures for this funding, AB 1913.
Yes, Mayor, members of the City Council, this is a public hearing on the authorization appropriation of the supplemental law enforcement services fund this year in the amount of $100,000, which has been earmarked for $41,000 in overtime, $15,346 for the increase in dispatch fees to help offset that increase, and $43,654 in building improvements for the police department. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
You spent $43,000 on paint?
Oh, no, that's not.
I'm kidding you, Ray. I'm
Paint.
kidding you.
Got some good, it's going to last for years, Ted.
I would have, yeah. Can I get a gallon of that?
Any other questions?
Chief, were these SLEP funds, these funds that were going to be continue on by this year? I thought those funds were running out.
Yes, what happens is each year, Sacramento has to approve those funds. And for the last several years, those funds were in jeopardy.
Okay.
I'll say this, this year they were not in jeopardy. Last year they were not in jeopardy, but the 3 years prior to that, they were in jeopardy, and they were on the governor's list for
Cuts.
elimination.
Okay. Good thing we still get them.
Yes.
Get them while they're getting good, huh?
Yeah, no doubt.
Right.
Any other questions from the council? Okay, I will go ahead and open the public hearing. Anybody like to comment on this matter? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council.
I would move to approve the supplemental law enforcement services fund, otherwise known as SLEP funds, and authorize expenditure for this funding, AB 1913.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Item C, adopt ordinance number 2007, next number, a resolution declaring the existence of a public nuisance under ordinance number 95-4.
Yes, Mayor, members of the City Council, this is a public hearing on 2 locations involving tall grass and weeds overgrowing in yards. The first location is 1221 GoldenEye Court, in which our code enforcement officer sent out a registered letter to the owner. There was no response from that notification, and this matter now is brought before the City Council, and I believe in your package you have a copy of the photos depicting the overgrown weeds. And the height of the weeds do create a fire hazard for that property and surrounding properties. As you can see, they grow right up against the wooden fence.
And we're just not getting any response from the owners at all?
No response at all. The second location is 1265 Duck Blind Circle. And again, the certified letter went out to the property owner. There's no response. And in this one, we have tall grass and weeds throughout the front and backyard. Pool is half filled with dirty water that's emitting a bad odor. And in this one, again, we've notified the Turlock Mosquito Abatement District to put this on their watch list. And again, as you see from your pictures, that the overgrown weeds do present a fire hazard to the property and to adjoining properties.
Is this the same property we talked about 2 weeks ago about getting the pool pumped out, or a different
This
property?
is a different property.
Further questions? I will go ahead and open the public hearing. Would anybody like to comment on these two abatements? See no one. I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the council.
I so move for adoption of a resolution number 2007, dash number, a resolution declaring the existence of a public nuisance and ordinance number 95-4.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Just a quick question. These two are done separate because one's residential, one's in the business park area. Is that why? I mean,
No,
two, or just,
they're just done separate only because it's two separate addresses.
okay.
Yeah.
And our next one is adopt resolution number 2007, next to number, a resolution declaring existence of a public nuisance under ordinance number 95-4.
Okay, I'm sorry. The
Public
Works Director has a
Once
separate
Public
one.
Works, and
Right,
okay, that's why then, okay. I just wondered why we couldn't do them all together, but that's why.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. That's the code enforcement issue, again, from the Public Works perspective. We concentrated our efforts in the industrial park area. We sent abatement notices to all the property owners. There's a list in your agenda packet who received the notice. And just prior to the beginning of tonight's meeting, I handed out the list of properties that did not comply with the request. So at this time, staff recommendation is that you adopt a resolution number 207 next in number declaring the existence of public nuisance under ordinance number 95-4.
Questions? I will go ahead and open the public hearing then. Would anybody like to comment on this address? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the council.
I recommend that we adopt the ordinance, resolution 2007 XX, under the ordinance number 95-4.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ernie. Item 9, consent calendar. Item A, waive all readings of ordinances and resolutions except by title. Item B, approval of warrants. And item C, approval of minutes of the September 25th, 2007 regular meeting.
You need a motion, Mr. Mayor?
Please.
I'll make a motion for approval.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Move on to regular business. Item A, presentation of water and wastewater rate studies by Ecologic.
Thank you, Mayor. The council at last November has issued staff to proceed forward with the rate study for our wastewater and our water rates. We engaged the services of Ecologic Engineering, who's also doing our master plan services for us. They're here tonight to do a presentation of the water and wastewater rate studies. This is an informational item. We're not asking you to take any formal action at this time. We'll talk a little bit about that afterwards, as recent court decisions have indicated that water rates increases and wastewater rate increases are subject to Prop 218 votes. And so we will be going through that process, which requires a 45-day notice and a mailing of ballots and a protest vote. And so we're going to be working with our city attorney on that, and we can answer any questions that you have with that process following our presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Jeff Richmond with Ecologic, and prepared the wastewater and water rate study, the presentation that you reviewed, and we'll present the highlights and overviews of it and take any questions you have about any of the details of the study. The big picture view on the basis of the wastewater changes
Jeff,
that will be
excuse me,
presented.
Could you pull that mic up a little closer, just a little more here? Or break
You could
off.
take it off. If you'd like to take it off, Jeff, you could if it'd be more comfortable. There you go.
How's that? Is that better?
I don't think it's on.
No, it's on.
Is that better?
No. Bob?
Watch out, Ernie.
These
Oh,
speakers
really?
aren't working out here.
Yeah, it's not working either.
Oh, he says it's working, he just doesn't have it close enough.
Ask him if he could turn the volume out here for the.
Can you turn the volume on here?
Tell him to replace it.
Go ahead and talk in. Jeff.
Any louder?
Okay.
Yeah, I'll try to speak loudly then.
Thank you.
There's three primary bases for the increases that are going to be shown on the wastewater rate service charges. The first is cost inflation of 6% per year is projected out in the future, and that's on the basis of looking at the last 5 years' history of the city's experience. Across the board in the wastewater enterprise fund, they've experienced approximately 6% per year inflation in all of their costs. The second item is there's a capital improvement slated to be put out to bid in the beginning of next year, which is an expansion of the effluent storage basin to meet a 100-year storm event. The third is a capital reserve of approximately $100,000 per year in anticipation of capital improvements that will come out of the master plans in the future. The effluent storage basin, the capital cost is estimated at $3 million. What's being paid through the wastewater service charges is the debt service for that capital expenditure. This is a summary by service category of the rates, the proposed rates, the current rates, and then the change in those rates. And I'll highlight a few here to talk about briefly. Here's the core rate, which is the single family rate. The proposed rate is $30.58. Current rate is $24.43 for an increase of $6.15 a month, which it represents a 25.2% increase from the current charges. Highlight briefly the commercial, and then the details on the commercial. The commercial are treated effectively as one category, as the base rate increases 25.2%, and the excess usage charge increases 14%. I didn't highlight specifically any of the commercial, restaurant or food processing or industrial users. One big change there is on F&A dairy, the increase of 15% on the base charge and 243% on the excess usage charge. All the other commercial restaurant and industrial users are taken on a case-by-case basis, depending on their relative impact on the system. The methodology is fairly straightforward. I'll give the highlights of this. Customers pay in proportion to their impact on the system. And what does that mean? That means the impacts are determined with three basic characteristics: the flow that's generated from the users, and then the constituents of that flow, which is in two characteristics: biological oxygen demand, or BOD, and the suspended solids in that flow. And this is a summary identifying the characteristics relative of each user category of their impact on the system. And here, the wastewater characteristics for each one of the users that there's a service charge for is the flow, the biological oxygen demand, and the suspended solids contributed by each one of the users that was used in the analysis. And you can see the highlight one here. Single family, for example, is the predominant contributor of wastewater demands in the city. And flow, they're approximately 63% of the capacity. BOD, approximately 35%. And suspended solids, approximately 51% of the demands on the system. And those percentages are used to allocate the cost to each one of the user categories from the service expenditures that the city experiences. From that, a cash flow projection is done to look at the impact on the enterprise fund itself and to see the cash balances that are produced, or deficits as the case may be. Some notes about the cash flow, which I'll show you next, are based on these characteristics. First, new rates, given the time frames around 218 in the adoption process, are projected to be in effect as of January 1 of 2008. Second item mentioned before, 6% annual inflation rate. That's a historical inflation rate and also the expectation of inflation off into the future on an annual basis. Third item, the debt service for the storage basin expansion. I mentioned the $3 million of capital cost. That translates into approximately $170,000 a year of debt service at about 3% per year from the current projections we're getting from the Infrastructure Development Bank, excuse me. Third item, this will show land acquisition that's projected in 2009-10. That doesn't affect the current rate increases that I'll show, but will affect rates off into the future. Additional irrigation land will be needed to be purchased in the future, approximately $3 million. If that occurs in 2009-10, an additional rate increase will be needed of about 15% to take care of that capital expenditure. The other items that will be shown on the cash flow, the debt service coverage with the increased rates is healthy. That means that the coverage that debt service requires to fund the debt is sufficient to fund the debt, which means you can sell the bonds and get your capital improvements built. The final item, the annual operating reserve, is targeted around 5%. That's to take care of any unforeseen items that come up that are not projected into the city's either capital expenditures or operating plans for the year that the city will need to cover. This is the cash flow projection. 2006-07 is projected, and then the next 5 years after that is forecasted. Again, highlight the items I talked about in more detail about what this is showing. First, all the operating expenses are shown to increase at 6% per year. The new debt service for the storage basin expansion, approximately $170,000 per year. Anticipate that to start up in the beginning of 2008 once that debt that debt's issued. The debt service for the land acquisition out in 2009-10, approximately the same capital expenditure and debt service, only out 2 years. Here the debt service coverage is shown. In the issuance of the debt for the storage basin expansion, the debt service coverage ratio is approximately 1.5. Anything north of 1.2 is healthy. And it means that the city can meet its debt obligations through the enterprise fund. Coming down to the bottom here, looking at the operating reserve. This is the reserves that the city has available should unforeseen events happen. In 2007-08, it's only 2%. However, the new rates will be only in effect for half a year at that point in time. Going off in the future, the operating reserve is 5% or a little north of 5%. And then finally, the additional land acquisition shown out in 2009-10, as I mentioned, would require an additional increase in the wastewater rates of approximately 15% should that land acquisition cost be funded and debt service be run through the enterprise fund at that point in time. The white bar in the middle of this chart, which shows a comparison of other nearby communities. This is the single family rate of a little over $30, and it shows other communities and their rates. So while it's a 25% increase, which is a hefty increase, it also shows that the $30 charge per month is not out of line with other communities currently. Now I'll move over to the water rate study, which is also included in the report that was handed out. Some of the very similar characteristics of the wastewater study drive the water study as well. First is cost inflation of 6% per year. Second is a capital reserve of about $100,000 per year. There's both a water and wastewater master plan that's in progress at Ecologic. At the results of that, we anticipate there be significant capital expenditures that the capital reserves will be used for in the future. Third item there, an annual operating reserve. As you'll see from the cash flow coming up, the The operating reserve for the water fund is even smaller currently than the wastewater fund, and we want to get that operating reserve up to a healthy level in anticipation of any unforeseen events that the city may face. And then finally, future capital projects. There is an amount that's shown in the cash flow for the water fund that there's not a firm capital requirement for the master plans yet we believe that's significant, and we'll show an example of what that may have an impact on the rates given a significant capital expenditure. This is a chart of the proposed water rates. Currently, rates are for standard single family 5/8 meter, $8.65 with a 41-cent excess usage charge. Those rates are proposed to increase to $10.90 and a 55-cent excess usage charge, which represents a 26% increase on the base rate and a 34% increase on the excess usage charge. Across the city, if you looked at all of those increases, the average increase across the revenue stream for the city is approximately a 30% increase in revenue for the city if you balance out both the base rate and the excess usage charge. Switching over to the water cash flow to show what this does, the new rates would do to the city's enterprise fund cash flow for water. Once again, we show the 6% increase in costs annually. Here we see the approximately 30% increase in the cash flow for the first year where it's adopted in 2007-8, again for 6 months of 2007-8. Highlight the potential increase here. That's a scary number. We don't know what that number will be in the future until the water master plan is done. The debt service of $282,000 assumes that there is a $5 million capital requirement that needs to be funded from debt service at that point in time. I don't know if that number is high or low till the master plan is completed, but for illustration purposes, I wanted to put a number in there to show what a $5 million capital expenditure would mean that the rates would double out in 2009-10 for illustration purposes. Coming down to the capital reserve, showing that the capital reserve being phased in as the full effects of the adjustment in 2008 are felt. You see the $50,000 in 2008-9 and $100,000 projected in the years after that. And then finally showing the operating reserve, you see the current projected reserve for 2006-7 is negative, and we want to turn that positive. The operating reserve is targeting around 5% going off into the future to give the city some healthy reserves to deal with unforeseen events. That's the high-level view. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Questions?
Jeff, why is it going up 6% every year? What's increasing that's causing that?
Salaries, healthcare, predominantly.
Gotcha. Wow.
I mean, in some cases, the healthcare is in excess of 6%, and you have other items that aren't increasing as much.
Thank you.
Jeff, on your page, projected cash flow, proposed rates, your debt service coverage, it's indicated number 2.09, 1.47. I don't understand what those numbers mean, how they're arrived at, what their significance is. Can you explain that to me?
Okay. The debt service coverage looks at the debt service. Can we go back to
Proposed rates.
you go back to the wastewater?
Go back.
There we go. There you go. Perfect. The debt service coverage ratio looks at the total debt service as a percentage of net revenue before depreciation and debt service. It really looks at your debt service obligation in relation to your total cash you have available. So here, That 1.47 is, you have $692,000 projected of cash after your operating expenses. Your debt's $472,000, so you can cover 1.5 times your debt obligation. It's a measure of the health and ability of an enterprise fund to cover its debt obligations. And when debt is issued, that ratio needs to be a certain level for debt to be issued and for bondholders to feel comfortable that the enterprise fund can meet its obligations. It's also a measure of the enterprise fund itself to cover those obligations and not create any risk for the city's general fund.
And what was the number that you indicated bondholders like to see?
1.2 or better creates a lot of confidence that the obligations can be covered straight from the enterprise fund.
Thank you.
Further questions? I know it's a lot to digest tonight. No pun intended on digesting. If there's no further questions, thank you very much.
Michael, when was the last time our rates were increased?
Sewer rates 1989. So that's at least water rates. Water rates was 1989, and then I believe we had a character named Jim Buell here for as the interim city manager that did some annual escalation factors on our sewer rates. It wasn't a comprehensive rate study. Part of where I think the city is feeling the burden, where you see the big number at 25%, is the city has not instituted a annual cost of living adjustment for these rates. Hence, since 1989, water rates have not gone up. If they had gone up with the cost of inflation, say 2% a year, we would probably be already at that number and be sufficient. That's what we're trying to do as we work forward is as a cost of inflation hits our enterprise funds, and it takes a lot of energy to run a sewer plant. And PG&E keeps raising our rates. So part of that is as an enterprise fund, and what an enterprise fund is our sewer operations and maintenance. We have an enterprise fund set up, and that enterprise fund is set up so that way the sewer rates actually pay for the operations and maintenance of the sewer plant. It's not subsidized by the general fund. And so you set up these separate accounts to run these operations and maintenance and do repairs and those types of things. So we did a cost of living adjustment. Probably he was probably here in about 2004, or Jim Buell, 2003, 2004 roughly, because I got here in 2003. So we did one for sewer then, but water has not been touched since 1989, which is a significant amount of time that has gone by since then. So.
We've enjoyed good rates for a long time.
We have. And we were just joking at our planning directors meeting on Friday. We talked a little bit about that, and City of Turlock, is their rates are much, much higher than ours. I think they're creeping into 3 digits for water, sewer, garbage over there. So ours, water, sewer, garbage is, on average, I think depending on how much you use, between probably $50 and $60 a month.
And it'll go up to what, Mike?
Your sewer we're not changing. Garbage will come up in a little bit because county raised dumping rates. We'll have to talk to Jim about that. Sewer rates are going up to $30, and water's going up to $10. So you're about $40 there. And I don't know. Do you know what trash is? Trash is around $16. So that makes it about a base rate of about $56 at that particular point in time. All told, between the 2 rate increases, the base rates will increase about $8 a month. It's just over $6 for sewer and just over $2 for water. So on a dollar wise, on a base usage for the people that are using the base amounts, you're looking about between $8 and $9 a month increase.
Further questions?
No. And if Mayor, if you'd like, I know our city attorney again will just briefly talk about what we need to do as a community to raise these rates and how that process is going to be handled.
Yeah, Michael mentioned some recent court cases. Even before then, I've been recommending to all my clients that you do the 45-day protest ballot procedure. It's just the most conservative and safest way to go. I always recommend that you do that. And I have the template ready to go if given that direction.
What that is, you mail it out, and if anybody protests, then they send their ballot back in.
Correct.
Cities,
And
how
they
that
can
works.
also
yeah.
show up at the night of the hearing.
At what point in time do we initiate that?
It's your call. I'm not sure staff-wise what we need to do to ramp it up. I would need to get Michael my template, and then I'm not sure the coordination with the other folks.
Yeah, part of it, we wanted to, again, tonight, present the report to not only this council, but to the public and give an opportunity for them to digest it before we went into that 45-day vote. Again, we'd like to have these water rates in place in the first quarter of 08. So we could schedule this for your next council agenda for you to direct staff to proceed forward with the 45-day notice. And probably, let's see, that would put us maybe at your first meeting in December. I don't have the exact date on that, but that put you around the first meeting in December to take action or to look at the polled votes.
Yeah, that sounds good. Get that on our next agenda with the template, like Tom said, of what will be mailed out to all the citizens, and go from there. Okay. Moving on. Item B. Adopt final guidelines and conditions of the employee home loan program.
Thank you, Mayor. It's been a long time coming, and I know we have a couple employees that look forward to this program. But based on the direction from council, staff went back and we looked at a couple different things. One, based upon the direction from council, staff has opened up the home loan program to all employees of the city of Newman. The second thing we did was look at the amounts. Originally, we had loan amounts with a minimum loan amount of $10,000 and the maximum being $50,000. We kept the minimum at 10, but then we lowered the maximum to 40. At this particular time, if the council so desires, we're asking you that you would set aside $200,000 into a separate account to fund this home loan program. That would help, 5 people at the maximum. Some people or at least one person that I've talked to has no plans to use the maximum amount. But there are some opportunities for this employee to enjoy the benefits of it, but not necessarily use the maximum amount. So, and then if it became so successful, the council could, at some particular point in time, decide to refund that. Any monies that would come back on a repayment would go back into that fund and then be eligible to be loaned out again. So. But again, just kind of going over the criterion again is, again, you have to be a permanent full-time City of Newman employee, and you have to have successfully completed your probationary period. You cannot be a previous participant in the program. The property that you use a loan has to serve as your primary residence here in the City of Newman. You have to occupy that residence throughout the term of the loan. You need to obtain city approval before you go out and buy the property. That's part of it. This is for the purchase of single-family attached and detached dwellings or condominium units. It's not for mobile homes. Those can be moved out of town in duplexes or motorhomes or recreational vehicles. And you have to, again, execute all the loan documents and escrow instructions as they pertain. The other modification to the program that we're recommending that you do is, after we worked with a local and discussed this with a local real estate person in the community who processes loans, they indicated that if you gave a 3-year grace period, it doesn't hit the employee's financials in terms of when you fill out a loan application, the company looks at what kind of debt service you have. If you give them a 3-year, no interest, no payments, it doesn't hit their debt service. So it helps them qualify better. So we did increase that to a 3 years, no payments, no interest, and a 10-year repayment period after that. So the total period of the loan is 13 years, not to exceed 13 years, and that's 3 years of forgiveness and 10 years of payback at that particular time. The interest rate is set at LAIF, which is a local agency investment fund. That's generally an investment fund that local agencies use, and we put our money aside in there. So what we do is we average out the last 12 months of what the interest rate is, and we set that at the time we give the loan. And basically what the intent there is we would have been investing that money in LAIF anyways, and the employee is now going to give us that interest rate. So in essence, we lose 3 years of interest, but it's set at
Same rate.
at the same rate that we would have been getting. So it is a minor amount of money that we would essentially forego by not charging interest for the first 3 years, but we think we get that back by having our employees live in the community and be invested in the community as they work here and being part of the community. So with that, I can entertain any questions that you may have at this particular time.
Mike, who's shown interest? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Who is that? Probably the same question, John.
I didn't talk to them individually about discussing their names at this particular time, so I prefer not.
No, I don't need
yeah.
names, but I mean, you've had people come
Yeah,
forward.
yeah. There are people in different departments that have shown some interest.
How about the teachers?
This is City of Newman employees, not school
You
district
can't
employees.
include teachers, huh?
No, they're not our employees.
Michael, if
School district can approach that.
if an employee wanted to start paying back, say after 2 years, if they were
There
doing
are no
well,
prepayment penalties.
Could they do that though,
Yes.
the way it's written up?
Yes.
Okay.
You could even, if they wanted to, start making small payments up front and knock down their principal
Okay.
debt before their interest
Before
kicked
the
in.
interest kicks
That's
in, yeah.
correct.
Michael, a question. Since we're in the second position as far as the trustee, are there any provisions in here to limit the amount of debt on the property so that it can't exceed the appraised value? So if there is a foreclosure, that we are still protected in second position?
Tom?
I'm looking, I don't think there's anything that specific.
Can that be done?
Sure, we can add that.
It's a great program, fantastic, and I hope it's utilized by everybody that can utilize it. But at the same time, we need certain protections in here.
I remember
I'd say
seeing
we
about
add that as number 8 on the section 3 of the loan terms.
Debt not to exceed appraised value of the property.
And if we find out they do that, then everything's due and payable or something to that effect.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, just keep in mind, that's not 100% foolproof as we've
That-
learned
that's why
over the
I say
last
if we-
year,
Well,
because
values could go down further
values
out.
go
can
down, yeah.
values can go
That's-
down. So we can also, say if you should refinance, the city gets repaid our amount. So if somebody comes in and refinances their property and tries to take money out, we should get our money back at that particular point in time.
That'd be some good wording too, yeah.
I mean, that's up to the council. I'm just throwing that out right now. That's another safeguard, because that's what some people will do is they'll refinance when their value goes up, pull cash out, and at that particular time, if someone elects to do that, then I think we should be paid back our loan amount. If they feel that they have enough value to pull out their cash, they have enough value to pay us back.
I'll agree with that.
I think that's reasonable, yeah.
Okay, we'll put that at number 9.
Any other questions, comments? Other than those two items we're adding?
Ed, this was your baby originally. How do you feel?
I'm comfortable with it. There's some significant changes from what was originally put together, but I'm a little concerned if the maximum amount is going to be enough. And I think if we see that as a problem, as it's not being utilized because people don't think there's enough, that maybe we can address that later. But
Sure.
I think it's a great start, and we have to start somewhere. So.
And Councilman, just so you know, when we lowered it to 40, one of the things we did look at is what kind of effect that has. For $40,000 is still considered at least 10% of their purchase price. Right. And most employees are going to take advantage of the situation, don't qualify for a $400,000 house. So I know $300,000 house is probably in the neighborhood that most people will be looking if you're just starting with the city of Newman and moving into there, in that $325,000 range. So that's still in excess of 10%.
Yeah, I think it's a huge step, and I, like others and members of council, hope that that primarily, obviously my focus at the time was getting police officers in town, but I think it's, as Stephanie pointed out, there's other employees that are interested as well, so hopefully other city employees will take advantage of it, and they are just as important as any other employee. But again, my focus was police department personnel, so it's a great step in the right direction.
I think one good thing right now, the timing is perfect. It's a buyer's market.
Yes.
So, they can hopefully get into something. Any other questions? If not, some direction.
I would move to adopt the final guidelines and conditions of the employee home loan program with the two noted additions under item 3, adding number 8 and number 9 as pointed out by our attorney.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item C, West Side Theater Radio Station funding request, presentation by Rick Nagel.
Sorry.
Sick guys, what is
I
it?
didn't start until I walked in here.
I'm going to get out of here. You guys are...
If I don't come down with something, I'm suing.
It's got to be something in the air.
Do you know a good lawyer?
Sorry, Rick.
It's okay. That's all right.
Discussing everybody's health issues up here.
I'm Rick Nagel. I reside at 404 Jensen Road in Gustine. Even though I spent an awful lot of time in Newman with my involvement with the West Side Theater, I almost feel like I should move up here.
You should.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you this evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. First of all, I have a prepared statement because without it, I wouldn't have been prepared. First of all, I personally, and on behalf of the West Side Theater Foundation, want to thank the City of Newman for all it's done to benefit the beautiful old building just down the street. The West Side Theater is evolving into a true community asset, not just for Newman, but for the surrounding West Side. It's a place alive with music, song, theater, spoken word, dance, and many community functions to entertain, educate, and otherwise bring together folks from Newman and beyond. I hope the City of Newman is proud their building has become the premier venue for performing arts on the west side of Stanislaus and Merced counties. I believe the theater is a wonderful thing myself, and I'm also very grateful to all the local residents who have contributed time, money, material, sweat, and tears to help in helping it to reach its potential. I appreciate this opportunity to speak with you about the possibility of expanding the theater's effort to promote the facilities, to promote and facilitate the arts on the west side of Stanislaus and Merced counties, to provide for increased arts and other general education, and to promote and aid the creative skills and cultural and social welfare of the community. So a week or so ago, I took the liberty of sending you all email that I hope you had a chance to look through, and I'd be happy to answer any questions about that. If I may, I'd like to recap essentially what I'm here to talk about, and that is a possibility of establishing a local community nonprofit educational radio station that would serve Gustine and Newman and some of the surrounding areas to some extent. The FCC, for the first time in about 10 years, is about to open up an application window. In fact, it's this Friday, and it will be open for a week. And during that week's time, people interested in being awarded a license to construct a nonprofit educational radio station will have to get their applications in, and it'll ultimately be approved by the FCC. The Westside Theater Foundation wants to take advantage of that opportunity, and I'm currently working with a broadcast engineer and a broadcast lawyer helping me put together all the exhibits and get the form completed. If the FCC will then review all the applications. This, understand, is going on across the country, and there is one frequency available in this area. I discovered this about 2 years ago, so this is a project I've been interested in for a couple of years to try to bring together. So there is a frequency available in this area. There will be competitors for this frequency, I'm sure, and this will be true across the country for different communities. There will be not the same frequency necessarily, but frequencies available throughout the United States. So the FCC is going to have a lot of work to do once this window closes. We want to get an application in, and if the FCC decides to award what's called a construction permit to the Westside Theater Foundation, we would have 3 years to put that station on the air. If it did come to fruition, it would be a great community resource, I think, a great way to get people informed of what's going on in the area. A soapbox, if you will, or a pulpit for people to talk about local issues. Also a way to entertain people. We could probably do broadcasts from events that take place at the theater. So anyway, I'm definitely sold on the idea. Part of the reason is for over 30 years I've been involved with non-commercial radio in the Bay Area. I grew up in Gustine and have recently moved back and would like to get something of that nature established in this area. So the theater, frankly, cannot afford to put this station on the air. The estimate is that it costs us $30,000 to $50,000 to put it on the air. And that's probably on a shoestring budget, but as long as it's on the air and operating legally, that's what the FCC is concerned about. Down the road, we can look at improvements. So frankly, the theater doesn't have those funds. But what we can do, we need to amass a portfolio before this filing window closes, or actually before we file. Once we file, the window is closed for us. I'm trying to stretch that out to the last minute, but the lawyer and the engineer aren't happy with that idea. So we can amass a portfolio, if you will, of pledges of support to the station. So it's not like we really need to have cash. We just need to demonstrate that on paper we have enough people or entities interested in supporting the station if it's awarded that construction permit. And in the event it's awarded the construction permit, the pledge would be along the lines of, I grant you or gift you X number of dollars, or I'll loan you X number of dollars under these terms. Or the other option, of course, is no, but that's not what I'm here to encourage you to to decide on. So that's what I'm here for, asking for your, I'm sure we have this, the theater has certainly gotten a lot of support from the city and the city council in the past, both spiritually and financially. I'm here to ask you to consider a pledge, if you will, that may not ever be collected on, especially if the FCC doesn't award the license to the Westside Theater Foundation, but instead award it to some other entity in this area that might be applying for it. And just to let you know, the city of Gustine, where I live, those folks are on board on this idea. They just recently, city council just recently approved, if it comes to pass, again, all predicated on whether or not a construction permit is issued. If it comes to pass, we can hang our transmission gear on their water tower for a nominal fee of $1 a year, and they're going to give us a 5-year lease. That amounts to about a $40,000 in-kind deal, because they're charging other tenants on that tower about $8,000 a year. And they've also offered us $25,000 cash spread over 3 years to help fund operating costs and equipment costs for the station. So I'm real happy that my hometown has done that, and I'm here hoping that the city of Newman will want to get on board with this idea too. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Rick, if you're awarded the license, do you actually own that license? Can you sell it after a number of years? Does it have value?
The foundation owns a license that has no value. We would have to transfer it to another nonprofit entity without any cash in exchange. It has no value. It has a lot of value as far as having that signal, that access to that airway, but no. If we had to abandon it for some reason, we'd have to give it to some other nonprofit entity in the area with no benefit to the foundation.
So the license you're going after, Rick, is only nonprofits can apply to it? Is
Yes.
that what it is?
Only
That's the way it's set up?
nonprofit educational institutions. We consider ourselves educational.
I see.
In fact, we've worked diligently at making sure our articles of incorporation, our bylaws, and our mission statement, and actually had to put together an exhibit for the FCC called an educational statement that makes it clear that we are educational. So yes, nonprofit. So the station would not have commercials. We wouldn't be selling hamburgers. You know, if you're familiar with essentially on the FM dial between 88 and 92 are where you'll find most of the non-commercial stations around here. It's KUOP out of Stockton and KFCF out of Fresno. So if you ever listen down to that end of the dial, you shouldn't be hearing commercials. You might hear underwriting about, the next program is brought to you by Joe's Pizza Parlor or whatever, but that's about as close to an ad that they can have. So it would be absolutely no commercials. The idea is that would be funded long-term by donations from the listeners, which is typically how these stations are budgeted and stay on the air. The problem we have right now, we're trying to sell an idea. If and when the FCC awards that license to us, then we'll have really something to really actually go out to the community and say, help us put this station on the air with some funding.
Or as you said, a certain company could underwrite, like say a library presentation that you did or something like that. That's how that works.
Sure. You could have at the beginning of an hour and or 2 hours do a special program on whatever, and say it's funded by I don't know, Damari's.
Right. The time slot was underwritten or funded by.
Absolutely.
Sure.
So it would be a way for the community to demonstrate their support in that fashion. Of course, it would be also the station would be very open to getting announcements out about other nonprofit organizations and events they may be having going on in town, like a spaghetti feed or what have you. We certainly would want to get the local kids involved from Augustine and Newman school districts. Maybe help them if they're interested in learning broadcasting or want to do news. Maybe we can get involved with broadcasting their sports events. I really envision it as being a true community radio station, and I have a lot of hope that if it did come to pass, it would be a great benefit to both Augustine and Newman, and make us even more of a team or a broader community, because we are sort of gravitating towards that as the build out goes and the towns come closer together. Newman is now part of Newman's now in Merced County. So this radio station would serve certainly Augustine and Newman, but the surrounding area to some extent, maybe as far north as Crow's Landing, east of Stevenson, south to Santa Nella, roughly.
Rick, I can understand your passion for this. The thing that comes in my mind immediately, who follows up when Rick Nagel's gone?
Well, it's not going to be Rick. It's not going to be Rick Nagel's station. Rick Nagel's just the point man on this right now. It will be the community station, and it would be governed and operated by ideally volunteers from the community, not necessarily those same volunteers that are involved with the theater. Certainly early on, yes, but I would hope that if the station did come to fruition, that over time people would get as passionate about the station and find that it is a true asset and valuable to the community, and put in their own time and skills to keeping it going. Again, I don't intend to be the station dictator or ruler. This is certainly my passion, but I believe there are other people out there that share this passion.
Do you have other cohorts now that you're involved with?
Regarding the radio station?
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly, yes. People that I talk to have displayed a lot of interest in it. Frankly, I haven't been real public about it because we're kind of being a little clandestine about it because of the fact that other entities can apply for the license. We're trying to keep that competition to as much a minimum as possible, so I'm been a little reluctant to go out real public. That's why there's not seen anything in the newspapers. I keep putting Dean off, saying, no, I don't want to talk about this. Only because I'm trying to protect. This is probably the last opportunity for this area, Augustine Newman, if they ever want one, to take possession of a radio frequency, because this is the only one left in this area, and somebody's going to get it in the next year or so after this process is ended up.
Rick, how long would the station be on each day?
Well, ideally 24 hours a day, but certainly not that. Initially, I think the FCC has some minimum requirement, probably 10 hours a day that would have to be on. So, and most likely that would be manageable, say from 10 a.m. to, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. maybe, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. something like that. But again, in my ideal, it would be on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Serving entertainment, information, act as a great source of emergency information, local news on a daily basis, lots of cultural opportunities, chances to listen to music you've never heard on any other venue, as we try to do at the theater. There's all the potentials there to be on forever and deliver great things for the community, I think. We could even do the city council meetings, but they're already on TV, so.
People could be driving around town.
Yeah, exactly.
They
could be driving around town and listening to you.
There you go.
Real time.
Scary.
You know, Rick, I sit here and I'm really excited about this because this is something I've known about for a number of years, and I think if you can do something like this, you've really done something for the community. And I think potentially the things that this can be used for are just, there's so many different things between Gustine and Newman that would be on the air. It would be wonderful because we don't have anything local. We don't get local news. We don't get any, it's like there's the window of opportunity opens for so many different things with this type of thing.
I'm there with you because I always jokingly refer to the West Side as sort of the bastard child that doesn't get any attention, and I don't know why that is. And when attention is brought to it, it's usually negative in negative light. And so I think it would be great for those reasons.
Oh yeah, and I think this is the last chance.
It is.
I think that what you're saying is true. Of course, if you have to be clandestine, so be it.
But well, it's public now because
I know
because
that.
I've gone before the city council and now before you, and I'm trying to rein in Dean. But at this point, at this juncture, because that filing window opens this Friday, there's no way anybody that would even want to consider doing this could get it together. It's taken me 2 years to get, of talk and trying to build enthusiasm. It's probably really taken me a good 6 months of work in the last 6 months, just trying to jump through all the hoops to satisfy the federal government. And calling on a friend who gave me, anonymous friend who gave me $5,000 to help defray the engineering and legal costs for the process I've been going through.
Could I ask you a question? 100 watts, how far does it get you out?
Most likely, now that I've got the city of Gustine to tell me how tall their water tower actually is, I didn't seem to know. So I've given that information to the engineer, and he says that now it's probably going to be 300 watts. But the real answer to your question, it doesn't much matter because we're boxed in here, and if the antenna was at 100 feet, or if the antenna was at 50 feet, we might be able to do 100 watt or 500 watts. But the higher up you go, the lower the wattage goes down because the FCC still restricts that signal to, we're like in a box canyon here, restricts that signal so that you don't start interfering with other signals that are already in here. Like they're already here, first come, first served. So in general, to answer your question more directly, the signal would radiate roughly 7 or 8 miles in radius from the Gustine water tower. That's what the FCC calls the 60 dBu contour, or the strongest signal. Then it's weaker. Probably could get it on car radios, not clock radios, but they don't have antennas, but car radios and home radios with antennas in, and this is all guess, frankly, north of Crow's Landing and maybe into Santa Nella. Out to the hills, there's not much there. And in fact, my engineer says, well, the good thing about the signal, if it did radiate from the Gustine-Newman area, it's all uphill from there. So there's no mountains to overcome.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
So Rick, you're looking for a commitment as Gustine did. Is that what you're looking with that dollar amount? Or?
Well, in my email, I said I would consider a substantial amount, $10,000 to $15,000. Frankly, I was probably a little conservative in that number. I'd probably like it to be more. But yes, what I'm looking for, or hoping for, you know, you folks are under no obligation, frankly, and I appreciate the opportunity to just talk about this because, as you might be able to tell, I'm excited. But what I'm hoping for is the City of Newman to take some interest in this project too, and help us build that portfolio to prove to the FCC we can afford to put this station on the air if they grant us a construction permit, and make a pledge of X dollars if predicated on the fact that we get that construction permit. If we don't get that, then you're off the hook, so to speak. Hopefully, you wouldn't feel if you're on the hook in the first place. But to make a pledge of some dollar amount in the form of a gift, which the City of Gustine has done, or in the form of a loan. I like the loan idea with the no interest in the 5-year, 3-year put off. And I essentially need to prove to the FCC right now that we'll have about $35,000 in pledges. Now, the thing that Gustine did for us was great. In all honesty, I wish they'd worded it a little bit differently because they said $25,000 spread over 3 years. Well, that means that the first year we only have $8,000 that I could show to the FCC now that counts towards anything. That they're not concerned about the future. They want to know today, if we issue that construction permit, how much money you got. So if you were to I know you'll consider this, but if you decide to make some support movement, I would hope that would be a little bit different than the way Gustine worded it. In other words, I'd like to see some money sooner up front pledged so that it's less of a task for me to build this portfolio and go out and bang on other doors and ask for pledges.
Sure. Well, I would be in favor of matching Gustine. Obviously, we can't let them outdo us. You know, we would have to go $225,001 because
right.
You know.
Yeah. Well, I was hoping you would.
Right.
I was hoping you would see it that way.
and you know, I don't know what my fellow council members think, but you know, as you say, it might not be needed, but if needed, it'd be a couple years, and you know, maybe we could do it the 1 year deal, and that would maybe help you out in securing.
Yeah, absolutely.
If it goes through.
Right.
Your license.
No, it's sort of unknown how long this process is going to take. It's unlikely that we'll hear off the bat from the FCC if they reject our application outright because we didn't dot the I's or cross the T's, and there's no resubmission. You're out. Then they'll have to look at those that are mutually exclusive, and that means people that apply for the same frequency in the same area. I know there's going to be at least one of those for us. So who knows how long it's going to be before the FCC makes a decision, but it's probably, if I had to guess, I'd probably say by your next fiscal year. But I don't hold me to that.
In other words, middle of next year before they would even decide or even
Before,
announce who would get it.
Right.
So you don't even know.
That's solely a guess on my part.
So after the deadline passes, you still won't know how many people applied until they announce.
No, once they close the window, which is the October 19th. Sometime after that, however long it takes the FCC computers to crunch all the data, there will be publicly available who applied for what frequencies in what area.
I see.
And so that'll be.
You'll know
It'll
that.
be useful information for us. Find out who else was being clandestine in their plans. But that won't really tell us anything about. Well, yes, it might give us an idea of what we're faced with.
Of what your chances are.
Of what our chances are. And just because some entity that has a lot of cash and established for a long time, that doesn't give them a leg up on us. The FCC uses a point system to make as a tiebreaker for if there is more than one applicant for the frequency area. And a couple things the West Side Theater Foundation has in its favor is that we don't own any other radio stations. If you do, that's not a good thing because they want the public. Actually, this is the first time in a long time the FCC's actually started to take the public into consideration as far as how the broadcast spectrum is divided up, and they want more diversity in the broadcasting. So one thing we have in our favor, we don't own any other radio station. The other thing we have in our favor, we believe, is that all the members of the board live within 25 miles of the business office. It's actually less than that. It's actually like 6. I think Crow's Landing is our furthest board member. So there will be competition. We think we've got some points in our favor.
Michael, is there any other funding sources just off the top of your head that if this council was to authorize some expenditure, some funds to assist in this adventure.
At this time, I think your primary source of funding would be the general fund. I don't believe this would qualify as a redevelopment agency type project.
That's what I was wondering. The way we could.
Well, we could look at it, but in all likelihood, it's very remote that this would qualify as that type of project.
Well, when I first got the email and I read it, I was pretty excited about it, and I think it would be such a golden opportunity for Newman to obtain, if the possibility FCC would grant us a license, and I sense that there's the same feeling amongst other council members. Mayor's very generous for an extra $1, but I would
I'll put that in myself too.
I would like to see if we could even stretch that amount to 30,000.
$1 here, $1 there.
If we did it, their term was 25 grand over 3 years, and if we use the same terminology, maybe change it a little bit over 3 years, or I would certainly be supportive of that if we could fund it and if we could budget it.
One thing I think what I'm hearing Mr. Nagel say, though, is he'd like it not to be restricted to a 30,000 over 3 years. He'd like it just to be a pledge outright, and so that way he can show the FCC that the money's there up front. Am I wrong in speaking that?
No, you have it right. But it's certainly your choice. But we need to show on the day that they say, okay, you get the construction permit. Actually, we need to have the portfolio now to demonstrate that. But on the day that they issue that construction permit, giving us 3 years to put the thing on the air, the day they issue that construction permit, that portfolio has to kick into gear. In other words, the money that's in there should be fluid. So if you spread it out over a few years like Justine did, and I'm very appreciative of that, don't misunderstand me, but that's put me in and I'm very appreciative for any support I get from both of the cities too. But that just puts me in the position of having to go out and knock on a few more doors trying to raise that money, because we need to based on my budgets my proposed budget, we need to demonstrate to them that we'll have $30,000 if they issue us that construction permit in that portfolio. It's not real money, I understand, at this juncture. It's just pledges of
Pledges,
that.
yeah.
And if I had my way, I'd like to be able to say to those people that pledge that money that, well, we don't really need it because now we got the construction permit, we're going to go out and sell a real radio station to somebody, but I'm not sure that I could pull that off fast enough to actually acquire the equipment with the station on the air. 3 years seems like a lot of time, but it may not be when you're trying to do that.
But you could get part of it, or
Oh, absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. You can be assured if that construction permit's issued to the foundation, we'll be out. Dean's going to get more on the story than he ever wanted. Well, actually, he's going to get the story once the filing window closes. Then I said, okay, we can sit down and talk. But absolutely, we'll be pounding the streets, advertising, doing whatever it takes to get real money raised toward putting that station on the air. Certainly early on when the construction permit's issued, even though, like I say, we have 3 years to get it on, I would like us to not waste a lot of time working at the more technical end of putting the radio station on too, and certainly be focused on the financial raising funds too. And that would have to be an ongoing project too, ultimately down the road. I mean, if the way the radio station would subsist is through constant subscriptions or donations from the listeners, and maybe underwriting from the local corporations or what have you to sponsor programs there. And it would all be tax deductible too, for whatever that's worth.
Were you making a motion?
Yeah, you did, didn't you?
I would move that the city of Newman fund out of the general fund $30,000 to assist the West Side Theater Foundation in getting the radio station up and running. And when they apply for the license, hopefully FCC would grant it to the tune of $30,000.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 4-1. Rick, good luck
Thank you, gentlemen.
on your plan.
Let's see if you can get Dave Luna to come back.
Mayor, I I took that to mean that was a gift, not a loan. Is that what the motion was?
I think, yeah, I probably should, I should have
Needs a gift.
clarified that. Yeah, I'd like to clarify it as a $30,000 gift.
I'll still second.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
I appreciate it very much.
Moving on to item D, discussion and development of city policy regarding Crow's Landing Air Base development.
See it, Tom?
At least it's not real cold.
Yeah. I mean, that's
I think the officers are having some, oh,
And no cookies back there.
okay.
Mr. Mayor, I asked to put this item on the agenda, and our local newspaper publisher, Bill Mattis, in his last Thursday paper had in his article, the West Siders don't like it. If you've been around the West Side as long as some of us, then you know West Siders hate it when people living outside the area try to dictate what we need and what we want. Further down it says, the only people looking out for the West Side are the people who live here. I wholeheartedly believe that. We originally wrote a letter to the Board of Supervisors, and we had several points on it. We got that letter in our packet. And I started going down and writing kind of a rebuttal of they didn't do this, they didn't do that. And I finally just said, you know, they really didn't consider anything that we had in that letter whatsoever. They were basically 180 degrees from our point. We have since not restated our position. Patterson has been very vocal in their direction, and I think it's time that we come back, restate our position, and make it public, get it out to the news, and say, here we are, this is what we think. So that's why I asked to have it put on the agenda.
So then, excuse me, you're asking Mike to just to get this letter out to the papers, the one we did here then, or is that what you're asking?
Well, I would imagine we would have to draft a new letter.
Yeah, what I'm hearing as your city manager, what I'm hearing Councilman Greencloth say is he'd like to have the council discuss again the drafting of another letter to the Board of Supervisors, letting them know that we don't feel that we were represented during the hearings for the Crow's Landing Air Base, and that they did not follow any of the recommendations that we proceeded. They didn't follow any of their procedures as well, and that sounds like he wants to formulate an official policy opposing.
You know, and I would agree with that, and I think not only that, but I think that we should point out that we're joining our neighbors to the north and agree with the opposition. We draft a letter, we send it to the board. I think what I hear Councilman Greenwell saying is, and I agree, we should take more of a firm stance and let them know what our feelings are. That it seems like everything's directed more to the north of us, but it does and it will have an effect on us as a community. And we kind of send them a, hey, this is what we think letter. I think it needs to be more of, it appears to me as I continue to read the newspaper and hear reports from our supervisor, although the developer doesn't seem to agree, it sounds like to me that the wheels are kind of falling off the whole plan, and the next step is, some public funding and things like that. And I think we need to make our position clear. And obviously that it probably leads into our next section as well.
Well, then there's also the standing invitation that we received from the city of Patterson. I know that happened when Councilman Kelly and I sat with them on a 2-on-2 meeting, and that could be a first step towards that as well, to where maybe there is a unified response to this particular project and how the county has been handling it. Mm-hmm. That could be a first step, or we could again submit our own letter. I'm not sure. I'm just kind of throwing things out for the council to discuss. I'm not saying we need to go in either direction, but.
Do we want to start with this letter and, everybody can make notes or add to it and put all the notes together and, or what would you gentlemen like to do?
Well, you know what I feel, I think, although they did send a letter out and we made our position, we thought clear, it's not clear enough to people. I don't think they understand. And I want everyone to know what the position is of this council. And I think in some way, we've got to get it out there, and it's got to be strong enough, word is strong enough, so the supervisors know that our position is that we're opposed.
Okay, so I'm kind of hearing a different direction now, and bear with me as I talk with you on this because I'm trying to understand. So now it sounds to me like we want to, again, use a different tone with the county, saying this is official city policy. We, in our letter and that we shared with you, recommended that they consider these issues when they move forward with that master development, and we didn't particularly say one group or the other. Are we now saying we want to oppose what's currently going on there? Again, I'm trying to elicit conversation from you and figure out, are we opposed? They went out, there's lots of things within that letter they didn't do. One, they went beyond the existing footprint. Is that something that we want to say? Are we looking at the project? Are we looking at the group? Help me. So if you're directing me to write that letter, that I know what kind of content and what kind of tone you want in that letter.
I think for me, I think the tone needs to be firm. We have our supervisor that comes to every council meeting, gives us updates, gives us reports, and he has stated his position early on, and obviously the supervisors went another direction, and I think our supervisor has had a good vision, a good picture of what he thought was going to happen with that master development plan, and it seems to me it's coming to fruition. I mean, pretty much everything he was worried about, and I agree with Councilman Crinklaw. My feeling is I think it needs to be a firm standing, that this council is opposed to the existing master developer. A lot of things that he has said that he was going to be able to do, and this whole rail project, and all of a sudden now the Port of Oakland says, well, geez, we have no interest in going that way, and that's not part of something that we're interested in. The current developer still feels that that's a viable solution, and then I'm not sure how he's going to do that.
Well, I think, Michael, you can almost go down all of our points in the original letter, and you could pick up what we asked and what happened or what didn't happen and reiterate those point by point and say, in point A, we asked for such and such, you're 180 degrees from that. Point B, and then just say that because of these reasons and the selection of the developer that you selected, we are adamantly opposed to that developer and the conditions that he set forth in the direction that he thinks we should go. And, I wholeheartedly agree that we should join arms with the city of Patterson and support them totally.
I'd like to ask Supervisor, though, he has until April to submit that plan. I mean, is anybody even going to listen to this, in all honesty, Jim?
Jim, yeah, go
Do you
ahead.
mind if we guys just...
And in addition to that, Michael, I would ask, and maybe Supervisor can answer it, this letter went out on February 20th. Did we get any kind of response back from the Board of Supervisors at all to our letter?
No.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Their votes.
Yeah, well,
Didn't mean
the vote. Other than, I mean,
we never received an official, either written or verbal, either confirmation that they even received the letter or.
And I guess that's something we could ask Supervisor. Did the Board of Supervisors give a copy of this letter?
Yes, we all got copies of it. In fact, I referred to it in my remarks, but I was the only one. Not only did we get a letter from the city of Newman, we got a letter from the city of Patterson and from the Patterson School District. I still have copies of those, although I didn't bring it tonight. I have met with this developer numerous times from the ad hoc committee, which I'm in, and the steering committee for the air base that I'm the chairman of. And this project, I always felt it was questionable to begin with. And because the project keeps changing, and with the rail and how many cars there's going to be, and where the money's going to come from, the support from the Port of Oakland, the support from the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. There has been many things that we as the Board of Supervisors have been told by this developer that just have not panned out. And it's really within this last month that we see this from the letter from the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. I'll leave one here. I copied it today. 14 points of concerns that they have with the rail project. The developer is saying that he'll only run trains at night, so it won't be disruptive to traffic. The MTC says that's not possible because other people are using the tracks at night. There's union contracts. Port of Oakland's not open at night. What they're working on now, I have to admit, this guy does know his way around politics, and he knows, well, he knows how to manipulate people. I won't say that much. I am limited to what I can say because I am considered biased if I say too much negative about the program. However, what really bothers me is there are two supervisors who've taken money from this guy and can say anything that they want favorable to the project, and we have Supervisor Monteith doing this tomorrow to the Air Board, trying to get money out of them for this project. But I have been warned. I really can't say very much about this because then I'm considered biased. So you're only biased if you're against the project, and you're not biased if you're for it.
Well, take money from them and be biased.
But there are some serious concerns with this, and we were told for months that the Port of Oakland is behind this. They really want that, and we find out that they're not. They're interested in going east to Chicago, which is what I was told a year and a half ago. I went there to check it out. This is long before the project was presented to the board. I think it was before the request for proposal. And I met with the Port of Oakland with Supervisor Grover, and I found at that time no interest. And so I felt at that time that we were given a bill of goods that really wasn't quite accurate. That was my impression at the time, judging from the port. I was not able to get the notes of the meeting that was held at the Port of Oakland a few days ago. And I was not told of the meeting. I chair the steering committee. This project is in my district, and I was never even told of the meeting, so I could go. Of course, Supervisor Monteith was there. And this sort of thing really bothers me. But the notes of the meeting that I did look over today from staff, but I couldn't get them typed and over to you, repeatedly say that the Port of Oakland has no interest in this project. They have other concerns. Metropolitan Transportation Commission has reiterated its 14 points of contention with the project. So that hasn't changed. And as soon as I get those, I will give you those along with Supervisor Monteith's remarks that will be made tomorrow. And I wasn't told about that until this afternoon at 4 o'clock. And obviously, this has been in the planning for a long time. So, they have done a very good job of trying to hide meetings that come up about this project from me, so I'm not able to say anything about it. I will leave with you tonight the letter we got from the Port of Oakland, the Metropolitan Transportation Commission's 14 points, and I will say one thing about one of the points, though, because we're hearing that the air quality is such a big deal with this because it's going to take all these trucks off the road. And that might be true to some extent. If you put containers on trains and get them over here, we'll take some off the Altamont. But the MTC, Metropolitan Transportation Commission, has stated you're just transferring the truck traffic from one place, over the Altamont, to the Central Valley, which has much worse air quality than where it's coming from out of the Bay Area. And so really nothing much is going to change, although the angle is being worked to try and get money out of the airport now. I mean, they've tried to get money out of the I-bond, which is the bond that was passed last November. I really feel that the chances of this developer getting money out of the I-bond are virtually non-existent. They are, the MTC is not going to, which is the Bay Area COG, will not put that project on. Port of Oakland will not sign on with it because they have their own interests. And rightly so, they're interested in long haul. They stated that time and time again. They don't want competing projects to compete with for the state money. There's also the matching money from the I-bond should it come. We were told many times two things. The matching money was going to come from the Port of Oakland. Well, that we know just now is not true. The Port of Oakland is not going to put a cent into this. And then we were told numerous times, and I mentioned this to the developer just yesterday. I met with him in Patterson, along with the one of the city council, city manager, and the mayor of Patterson, that we were told many times for at least the last half a year that the San Joaquin COGS, the Council of Governments, was going to overmatch. What they called overmatching was really making up the matching money for the bond money. Well, that is not true, and he finally admitted it yesterday after telling us that probably 20 times over the last 6 months. I met with the newspaper about this last week. They admitted to me that they were told the same thing, so I told him that's not going to happen, and he did admit that yesterday. But the meeting yesterday in Patterson, and I'll leave this to you because I think you'll find it interesting. City of Patterson had many points that they wanted to know that you might consider if you're writing a letter with your position. And this is, they were, well, first of all, we talked about the I-bond and all that, but are there going to be hazardous materials on this trains? Are they really going to run at night? Are they really going to be able to limit the cars to 50, which the MTC says this group has absolutely nothing to say to the railroads about how long their trains can be. But then there were many questions that are still yet unanswered, and they are unanswered at this time because nobody really knows. But if the water taken for the air base uses groundwater, what impact will that be on the west side? Patterson is especially concerned about it because the water flows to the north from the air base. So if you sink a well and pump water out of it, whose water is it? Is it from the air base? Is that their water? Or is if it diminishes the supply of the aquifer to Patterson, are they taking their water? It's a legal question. And what's going to be done about it? Now at the present time, the only thing that's been given to me about where the water is going to come from the air base is a drawing of the Delta Mendota with a drawing of a pipe sticking into it and a drawing of a pump next to it. And so far, at this time, that is the only thing I've been showed about where the water is going to come from. And when I asked the developer, did he have any rights to this water, he said no, he was working on it. But now they're talking about sinking wells. So, I mean, that would be a concern to the west side and what this might do to the region. What about the water treatment plant, the sewage disposal? It's not likely the city of Patterson is going to allow them to use their sewer system, as they're planning an expansion of their city too, and they need their capacity. And there's other points into this too that has to do with hazardous materials and water supplies and sewage treatment, I-bonds and the mods. So I'll leave this with you today. I only brought one copy of each, but I'll leave it to the city manager. Perhaps he can make some copies and give it to you. This is an ongoing project, and I would say that your comments are important. There will be a milestone that has to be met on December 18th. And every quarter, the deliverables are given to the board, and then we take it from there. Now, so far, the deliverables have been met. He has provided what he's had to do up until this point. However, in December, he has to show where the money's coming from the rail, and the matching money and how all that's going to be done. I suspect that it will not be possible for him to do that. So at that point, we have to decide what to do: extend it, or if maybe he will be able to do it, maybe not. If he can't do it, what are we going to do about it? That's an unknown. The project has not been officially submitted to the board, and it will not be until April. He has until this time in exclusive negotiation, nothing more, and to put his plan together and actually present at that time what it is he's going to do. Now, the other group, the Pro group from Southern California, also asked for the same thing. So what we're doing for West Park was the same thing as what we were going to do for Hillwood. Exclusive negotiations for a year. You present your project at that time. So we don't know exactly what his project is going to be, but the centerpiece of it has always been, from the very beginning, or almost the very beginning, the first one was residential housing, 14,000 acres of it, but that has changed now. When it was actually submitted to the request for proposal, it was a 4,800 acre project with the centerpiece of it, the rail short haul containers from Oakland. That's what his project is, and then industrial around it and office buildings, and those are the things he's putting together now. So we will find out what his project is, later next year. But these are the concerns. I think you'll find the letter from the MTC interesting. Port of Oakland was really no surprise. And the agenda of what happened in Patterson yesterday will be of interest to you too. So that's kind of the rundown of where we've been. Where we're going, we don't know. I don't know if you have any questions.
Questions for Jim?
Just a comment, but the thing that scares me the most about this is almost like a case study, and if I was still teaching history or government. This guy's going to win it in politics. He's going to defeat the people that are against it, and he could care less about the people on the west side. He's just going to defeat and have those 3-4 votes, whatever he needs.
He's got to have 3.
I know, and he's already got them.
No, he's only paid for 2.
Well, but yeah, but he's lining up the other ones all as we speak.
That's going to be his Christmas.
Well, I don't think he's going to be. I know he's not going to be able to pay me off, and he's not going to do it to Mayfield either. And I really doubt it, O'Brien. So I don't know. It's unfortunate what's happened to 2 of them, and that is public record.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's nothing illegal about it, but it certainly is unethical.
Why
I don't
isn't
like it.
It's amazing. It's not illegal.
And this is.
Yeah.
But no, the jury's out on this. He has to submit his project, and then we will evaluate it from there when we see what the project is. But before he submits the project, he's got to show us if he's going to bring rail in, how he's going to do it, who's going to pay for it, and just how it's going to work, and where he's going to get the water, and what he's going to do with the sewage disposal. I mean, these are all valid things that anyone would have to submit. Things like the storm drainage, how he's going to take care of that. I mean, these are all things that are yet in the future that he still has time to do, and they are, they're engineering projects. Is he going to have to build a sewage treatment plant? And we have a creek that runs through, a little Solano Creek, and then Solano Creek along the other edge of it, too. Remind you that this project is 4,800 acres. It's the size of Newman and Patterson combined. This is no small project, and it's a daunting task. It's an extremely large business park. When we were working on the Salida plan, just as a comparison to this, the board was going to set aside 2,000 acres for industrial park. And we were told by all the developers it's just too large. They'll never fill it up. It'll take 40 years. So we had to scale it back some and call some of it industrial reserve because 2,000 acres was too much. And so it's interesting. The same supervisor that told me that the 2,000 acres was too much was the same one who told me that 4,800 acres over here on the west side was just right. And go figure that. So there's a lot you could put in the letter. I mean, I could deliver to you the concerns of the Patterson Unified too. A lot of unanswered questions here, but whatever your position is, whether you have any concerns about water or rail or hazardous materials going through here or the size of the project or noise or traffic congestion or trucks, whatever your concerns are, I think, I know I certainly would like to hear them, and it'd be appropriate to share those views with the rest of the board, whatever your concerns are. So I would encourage you to do that. You formulate what your concerns are. You might talk to Patterson because they're a couple of steps ahead of you on this. Not much, but you know they have started formulating their questions too. So I would encourage you to put together what your concerns are, and then we'll certainly consider it. I know that I will certainly bring up your concerns to the board, and I would like to know what they are too, because the best I can remember from your letter, it was confining the project within the footprint of the airbase was one of them. I can't recall if the trains or the water was a concern of yours, or hazardous materials, or.
I think this was written before the fact. We didn't know anything about that.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's true, Mayor, and we know a lot more about where the project is going now than we certainly did when the request for proposal was out. So now would be the time to express what your concerns are, whatever they are, whatever you decide they are. I think that it would be appropriate that you tell the board, myself, what they are.
How about taking a nice ad out after we write the letter, if it's a nice letter, and take an ad out in the B?
If the council so desires, I can take a proverbial stab at this letter and submit it to you for your review and direction, and then making sure that I have the full content and tone that you desire in this letter as I send it out, before I send it out.
Would you like to contact my items? And it's kind of a shirt tail on the first item. As our representative, Stan Cog, I think that in my mind, it's important that you have a vision, a decision of the entire council. If you go to a Stan Cog meeting and there's an agenda item that requires a vote that would affect city. By doing that, then it doesn't compromise your position. You're just taking what we tell you to take and voting that way. And in the past, I don't think that has ever come up or been an item, but to get some clear direction and policy set on that so that whoever the SANCOG member is knows what their responsibility is and know what direction the board would like them to go.
Sure. In other words, if items specifically for Newman or for the west side, consult the whole council. Sure, we could do that. Well, yeah, I am on, obviously, the representative, and I am the chair this year of that. And just for those that don't know, each city has one member on there, except Modesto has 3, and then the board has 5. So technically, the board and Modesto pretty much rule STANCOG, but yeah, 8 cities have 1 vote, Modesto has 3, the county has 5. Right, Jim? Is that? Yeah, that's the way it is. So 16 voting. If they all show up, a lot of times people don't show, but yeah.
And some of this, John, comes from the fact that I heard that there might be a STANCOG vote to support the developer of the project on applying for rail bond money
It was actually was it last meeting? Yeah, there was something on there, it was pulled. It was just an informational item, there was no formal vote, and tomorrow night's meeting, there is nothing on there, but I will definitely keep the council informed.
Okay. Can we establish that? Do we need to establish that as a formal policy?
Well, based on my last conversation, I'm kind of hearing that we have set a formal policy or where we're at with respect to that issue, but I mean, it wasn't formally voted on, so I don't know. It's up to the council and how you want to give your representative direction to take action on any of those items that come up regarding that issue.
I guess if something something is on the agenda, we'll try to get it. It's like the meeting's tomorrow night, so the agenda comes out on Friday, and that's a public document. Anybody could look at it on the website or whatever. But I'll try to keep you informed if something's there. And I'm trying to think, we wouldn't be able to get it on our agenda if it came out on their agenda on Friday, huh? For a vote on Tuesday.
What I can do is, knowing that this is a front burner item for the council, I will definitely keep an eye on my city manager, Stancog agendas, and so we as city managers generally see that before the policy board does, and then we will inform the council of any pending actions that would be coming forward to Stancog.
If we know,
is that appropriate?
Or something comes out before a meeting, yeah.
And then again, as your city manager, any votes that city managers take with relation to that will follow the direction I've been given tonight.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. Ted, you okay? Or?
I'm fine.
Scared or?
Yeah. I won't be tomorrow. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Okay. Moving on to our emergency item 10F, about downtown lights.
Thank you, Mayor. It was brought to my attention by the Public Works Department, who only heard from their vendor that every year we have a vendor who goes up and checks the lights, makes sure that they're all there, replaces the ones that are broken, and does some repairs. And there are sections out there that are starting to fray because we don't take the lights down after Christmas. They're left up there on a year-round basis because it's too labor-intensive to bring those down. But there is some fraying that's going on with the wiring. That does ultimately present a public health and safety issue, as it could cause a fire in the downtown area. So with that, the vendor that services our lights is recommending that we go through a process of replacement. And they indicate, well, you could do half and half, but as we look at it, which half do you do, and how do you know that you got the right half? So we started talking to him about a replacement of all the downtown lights as they serve our downtown area and getting ready for the Christmas season. You're looking about, I think it was $4,300 in, about $4,400 in
Lights and
about $5,000 in labor. In talking with the Public Works Superintendent again, he said, $10,000 if you put it at a not to exceed cost of $10,000, because you really don't know how many of the clasps that are up there that have to be replaced, because we clamp them down as well. They need to be replaced, and those bring in a cost as well. So, but we are recommending that you go ahead and we're asking you to approve this item as a budgetary amendment as well, so that we can move forward with that. The Business License Surcharge Committee, which hadn't met in a while, so we had to throw one together, and made up of of Councilmember Kelly, Paul Wallace of the Chamber, City Treasurer David Reed was involved in that, as well as our local downtown expert Bob Navoa. And
except you can't get to over 2 hour DVD, but that's all right.
Yeah. They unanimously recommended that the council move forward with this project.
Will they be able to get it done, Michael, by the time our Christmas tree lighting comes around?
Definitely, they get it done before that. And just so you know, currently about approximately $29,000 sits in that business license surcharge account. So you would expend approximately 1/3 of those funds.
Hey, we could get colored lights if we want to.
No, the white lights are beautiful.
I know they are.
I almost wish we could leave them up year-round. It looks so nice.
I agree.
It's been talked about leaving them, lighting them for special occasions. The problem is you have to physically go on top of the buildings on some of them and turn them on. I think it takes the guys a couple days to get them all just plugged in, huh?
Yeah, and
I
then,
remember, right?
then there's always costs that are associated with it. The city,
Full day.
for the most part, picks up the PG&E costs that go along with that.
I had
Right.
family in town last year that were just amazed how nice our downtown looked. It lit up and asked if we did it year-round. I said, no, it's just a special thing during Christmas. So, but it is very beautiful, so.
With that, the West Side Theater being lit up, fabulous.
Speaking of that, I'm sure our Christmas trees are ordered already. I'm sure Doug usually takes care of that, huh, Ernie?
He works together with David Reed, I believe.
Yeah. And that's how about this all came up, as Public Works Department and the city are starting to gear towards the holiday season. So that's when our superintendent contacted the vendor, who then made them inform, oh, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how this is all coming about. You know, this is early October. We're starting to gear up for the holiday season in November and December. So that's about the lead time we need. So
There's no questions. We'll entertain a motion then. These things fixed.
I so move for approval of emergency agenda item 2007, next number, downtown lights, not to exceed $10,000.
I second it.
All in favor?
Oh, wait, can I do that, Mike? That I'm on that committee?
Yeah.
Okay.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. You're fine, Ted.
I didn't know. I don't want to screw all you guys up.
Item G, report from Supervisor DeMartini. Jim, did you have anything else to add, or?
That was my only topic.
Okay.
I don't know, unless there's any questions. I mean, that was the only thing I was going to talk about tonight, that I did it.
Thank you, as always, for attending our meetings. We appreciate it. Item 11, items from the city manager and staff.
thank you, Mayor. Within your package today, you did find a copy of the Newman Youth Baseball Executive Board meeting that's going to be held tomorrow night, 7 p.m. here in the council chambers. You know, the new board is working for it. Again, I think having these meetings public, they are getting the agendas to our deputy city clerk, and we're trying to post those at City Hall. We're trying to get those out. If any of you have been at the last 2 weekends, I believe, of soccer, they are putting a sign out there that they are recruiting volunteers for the baseball board. It's just kind of a little metal sign they stick in the ground. So I think they're really trying to get put the effort out there to get some volunteers to come in with that. So. Dr. Foss is unavailable to meet with our 2-on-2 on the next 2 Mondays, and this is actually for Councilmember Martina, Mayor Pro Tem Martina, and Councilmember Kelly. He was wondering if there's another day you're available, maybe Tuesday the 16th. Is that available for? Oh, you're off
I'm
on a
at the
plane.
wedding, Mike. Yeah.
Bob,
You're getting married?
Tuesday the 16th.
What time? 4:30?
Same time.
Oh, you're paying for a
4:30.
wedding. No.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and check with
And
him,
another
and
one
then
back in
I'll
May.
get back to you
Sorry.
on.
Check.
Jesus. Okay.
I've been eating my cat food.
Need a can opener?
Not even the good stuff.
I just touched briefly on the 2-on-2 of Patterson. If the council so supports that, can we identify 2 people so I can start working on dates that work for us? Is there any?
I think I had volunteer for that. Actually, I talked to Becky a couple times, and she was more than happy to set it up, and she was going to get one other of her council members, and just a matter of setting a date.
Sure.
I'd like to volunteer for that.
Okay. So any particular night, I'm thinking 6-ish, 6:30. Is that a good time? I know are you still on Fireball area?
Yeah, we're going to be done this next week.
Okay. So is there an afternoon? Mayor, how about yourself?
6 o'clock, that would be great.
Okay.
See, their meetings are on Tuesdays too, but alternate, is that what it is? They're first and third, huh, Tuesdays,
Yeah,
yeah.
on first and third.
So, yeah.
So they're on opposite schedule, but so.
Obviously, we wouldn't have it on Stancog
I'll
night,
talk
but
with
yeah.
them. Is there any one particular day, a Tuesday or a Monday or Wednesday, that works best for either one of you?
Just as long as it's not on Stancog Wednesday, which would be
Okay.
the second Wednesday tomorrow, but
so
I
that
think
would
that
work,
would
okay.
cover it pretty much.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and,
Except the last Thursday of each month is Stancog. LAFCO. Otherwise,
Okay. Just, and then the last thing is we have Ecologic that'll be coming in to do our master plan reports for us, updates at our next meeting. Unfortunately, the comedian known as Professor Stoll won't be one of our presenters, so probably won't be quite as entertaining as Professor Stoll is, but nonetheless, they're due and they'll be coming forward. Also, we've been working with Boyle Engineering, and the Public Works Department and myself have been reviewing the storm drainage master plan, and we've gone through administrative draft. We need to meet with them, give them some direction so we can get a public draft cut and distributed. So with that, that's all that I had tonight.
other staff reports? Guys, wake up back there. Everybody's good? Nobody's got anything?
He always likes to deliver the riveting report at the very end.
Uh-oh. Well, since he is the best dressed staff member,
Yeah.
Always.
I just have 3 informational items. This morning, Doug and I went to the County Public Works for a pre-construction meeting. We're going to get going on our overlay project. So they're going to be doing the county roads first, and then they're going to come into Newman. I think we're scheduled for November 8th, and then 9th, and then the following week. I think it's about 3 days that they're going to, that it's going to take for them to, they're going to come in and do some wedge cutting so that the asphalt won't be over the lip of the gutter. And then right after that, we're going to be doing the striping of the roadways, and we're also going to be. The other item is we do have some LTF funds that we have been saving up, so we're going to be refurbishing all our bike lanes. So we're going to be doing some of those in thermoplastic, especially on the new streets. It will be looking good. We're going to be doing center lanes. And then last of all, we're going to, we've been working on all the landscape maintenance district areas, and we've ordered a whole bunch of plants, and so we're starting over in the Hills Ferry Road area, and we're coming through there, and we're going to fill it in with all kinds of new plants. So it's really going to start looking really good, and we're going to continue until we get them all refurbished. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Plant extra trees for Ted in case his dies.
Wait, I've got that on my agenda.
Right now, it's autumn, so the leaves get
They're supposed to fall off,
I need
Ted.
somebody to come and trim my tree, all one dead leaf.
I already had a quick question.
I got a chainsaw.
A chainsaw.
The gutters and everything, with the rainy season coming along, I guess they go in and they clean all the drainage systems to make sure that they're clear. So when it does rain, they're not going to have the weeds and debris in them.
Right. Yes, we are working along on all of that. We're trying to at the present time we're trying to get all our summer and autumn work before the rains come and get that done, and especially the center lanes where some of the reflectors are missing, and then we'll go through their entire storm drain system and ensure that everything is clean and ready to go.
Ernie?
Oh, excuse me, go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Has our new landscape contractor took over on Sherman Parkway yet, as far as the maintenance, or that's still, we had to give the other ones 30-day notice? Has it?
Right, we did. The new contractor will begin on the 15th, but however, a lot of work has been going on over in the Sherman Parkway area, and it's our old contractor who has had other he hired extra personnel to go in there and clean everything up for the new contractor.
Even though he's getting canned, he's still doing it? Oh.
Yes,
Hey?
he's doing good.
He's an honorable guy.
Yes.
Ernie, one question about, and forgive me, I forgot where it was, the problem with the gutter, the water was always there. You said there was a possible resolution of the problem.
That's on Hidden Canyon Way. Last week, when we, after a Rule 20 meeting, the Gary Rogers, our city engineer, and myself went out with a rod and level and we shot some grades in there, and we believe that by taking out about 40 to 50 feet of some of the curb and gutter, that there's enough fall in there so that we can, once we replace it, that water will drain right out of there, and very, very minimal amount of water would be left.
And what's the timeline for getting that done?
I am going to, because I do have other areas, and because I do have in the budget about $5,000 for concrete work, what I want to do is I want to solicit some bids from local handy workers to give me some bids on doing some of that minor concrete work. And as soon as I get those in within the next couple of weeks, we'll get it done. Okay?
Thank you, Ernie.
Look at the cookie crumbs on his jacket. What's that? Cookie crumbs on his jacket. What's this isn't there?
Okay, I have just a few items. First of all, I'd like to report out that today the other half of the department attended the emergency vehicle operations training, so the entire department is now trained up on that. I'm happy to report out that on October 19th, we'll be hiring another full-time police officer, and that will bring us up to full staffing in the police department. And I'm very, very happy to report that, and the troops are very excited about reaching that full staffing level. At the county chiefs meeting last Thursday, there was a presentation by a new organization. This organization is sponsored by the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce of Stanislaus County. The name of the organization is called Reales, which stands for Respect and Educate About Law Enforcement Services. And this is a outreach to the Latino community who otherwise might be hesitant about reporting crimes to law enforcement agencies throughout the county. And basically, it starts off the pamphlet by saying, in Stanislaus County, members of the Latino community have been the victim of crimes such as robbery, theft, domestic violence, elder abuse, and assault and gang activity. In some cases, the victims speak only Spanish and do not report the crime to law enforcement. The policy of law enforcement agencies in Stanislaus County is for officers and deputies not to inquire about the immigration status of crime victims. In Stanislaus County, victims should report crimes to the police or sheriff regardless of their immigration status. And this is a bilingual pamphlet that will be going out throughout the communities in Stanislaus County. And today at the board meeting with the Westside Family Resource Center, they agreed to help be a conduit for this organization. Representatives will be coming out tomorrow. I'll be talking with them further. And their first kickoff meeting is this Friday morning in Modesto, and I'll be attending that also. So again, it's an outreach program encouraging people from the Latino community who are victims of crime to come forward and report those crimes so we can take proper enforcement action. And then as a follow-up to our last city council meeting about the loitering problem up at Fresno and Main Street, the city manager and I sat down and met with the owner of the liquor store. I've met with him a couple of times subsequent to that. Very good discussions about what he can do and what we can do as a city to help with that problem. As a result of those meetings, he has posted no loitering signs on his doors into the business. He's talking to the students as they come in not to loiter. They're taking a more assertive approach to going out and removing the kids when they loiter in front of the store. He's removed the tables and chairs that were in front of his establishment. He had a one-year permit for those tables and chairs. That permit, upon reviewing it, expired in June of this year. So now he's made aware of that. Without any hesitation, he removed those tables and chairs. Also, I met with Dean Harris, who will write an article in this week's paper about the loitering problem and our enforcement efforts. And the officers are going to be given direction as to what they can do to enforce the no loitering. For example, I did a little research and found out that we do have a loitering ordinance on the books. It was adopted back in 1993. And it's pretty unique, and it really pertains to what we're dealing with on Main Street, because it says it's unlawful for any person under the age of 21 years, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Let's see what it says here. To loiter within 500 feet of buildings or places open to the public where alcoholic beverages are sold. And when you go to the definitions of alcoholic beverages, that includes on-sale or off-sale premises. So Sergeant Richardson went out with a rollometer and found out with all the establishments that we have on Main Street that are liquor
no place.
on sale, on sale, it basically takes us from Kern all the way down to the end of the block here. I mean, there's.
That was a heavy point of discussion when that ordinance was adopted, because it basically eliminated everybody from downtown.
It did. The minors under the age of 21. So it's a tool that we have in our toolbox. We just have to amp up the enforcement of that ordinance. And that's about it. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions?
Okay.
Chief, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chief, one quick item.
Yes.
Pertaining to the liquor store again, the 10-minute parking signs that the owner had up.
15.
15.
Yes, I did have a discussion with him about those signs. He said he had put them up, and I told him that they were unlawful, and he's not putting them up any longer. The only problem we have to work out is loading and unloading of his personal vehicle that creates a problem for us, and we're going to work through that. But the no parking signs that he self-erected aren't going up any longer. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. No other staff? No other staff reports? Items from the city council members. Ed?
No.
I
Ted?
have a couple, but Ern, if
We're
you
not paying
would
for your
take-
daughter's funeral.
Yeah. Would you please take care of that my neighbor now, when we walk in the morning, is calling that place Lake Kelly. And,
Lake Kelly?
Yeah, real smart. I've tried to push him in there a couple times. The other thing and I told Mike about this, but I know poor Mike's got a million things on his agenda, but for some reason, the sidewalk has come up. And so I've had, you
At
can
your
sit
house?
there, yeah, my house. Just
You got a lot of problems at your
honest
house,
to
huh?
God. It's about this much, but it's enough where you could sit and watch and laugh all the time because people keep tripping on it.
China's coming through.
I don't know what, it's what? It's, God knows that.
Yeah, that's a good.
No, it's actually where there is the
good
tree
point.
that works. But Ernie, I don't know what you can, just shave it down. Mike said you shave it down. And then I was going to kid you, but ask you about the tree. But I've stapled a couple things, and even the wind last week blew those off. So, but that thing's deader than a doorknob. I don't know what. Anyway, but what else did I? That's all. But
So now you want a new tree. Now you want new curbs and
yeah,
gutters.
not new curbs, just that
Oh.
one little section. I'll put something, But I actually put tape on it so people can see it and then trip. But it's terrible to watch people, and I want to laugh, but I can't because people are tripping. But anyway, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted.
Yeah. Hey, Michael, how about an update on our aquatic center?
Aquatic Center, if you looked at our last agenda, we have a aquatic design group meeting a week from today. That'd be the 16th, and going into the second phase. And we are currently continuing to be on schedule. Schematic design should be done probably in January of '08, and at which time we'll continue our source looking for funding. But we're moving forward. The chief and I went out to the Hill property today, fully inspected the structure itself to make sure that it was secure. We have our Public Works Department that's gone out there. There's a pool out there. It's currently drained, so there's a few situations that we want to take care of and make sure that that side is secure right now. But everything's moving forward.
Will that house be moved, Michael, or?
Well, those are the possibilities. We have to see it. Right now, look at get a building inspector out there to see what kind of condition it's in, to see if it's even movable, and then if it is, then yes, we would try to relocate the structure, or give it away, or sell it, or whatever we can do to try to get some money.
Are the tenants still there?
No.
They've moved out?
Yes.
Okay.
And
all I
also, we rekeyed the McBride building today as well, so that's another one that we rekeyed, so that way we have total control of that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Michael, might be a good idea for the Hill property, if nothing else, that we post it, no trespassing, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just for whatever good it will do.
That was something that the chief and I had discussed when we were out there today, too.
Well, as you mentioned, maybe evaluate it. Sometimes it's better to have some tenants in there than empty. You know how that
Yes,
goes. So
yes.
maybe we might want to, rent it out for a while just because somebody's there and things are more secure. Or,
I was trying to sell the chief on that when we were going by that and telling
Oh.
him what a great spot it would be for him.
and there's a pool there too. There's a pool.
Michael, when's the pool sign going to go up?
We haven't started that yet, but I'll talk to Tom at Hard Drive and see if we can't get that up in the near future, yes.
Is that it, Bob?
That's it.
Thank you, Bob. Mike?
I've got this evening a short 45-minute speech, but since it's not a full house and Bob doesn't have any tape,
You're
I'll
not on
save this till a little later.
Start close.
But seriously, once again, the article, the only people who look out for the west side are the people who live here. As you watch us on TV at home,
Except right now, but.
that's right, it's not on.
It's not even
Put it in the paper. Be proactive, not reactive. Talk to your county supervisor, talk to the, it's rolling.
Oh, all
Thank you,
right.
Bob.
All right.
Be proactive. Call people. Tell them, hey, we don't like this project if you're not in favor of it. Don't sit home and say, when it passes one way or the other, oh, I didn't do anything about it. Stand up and be counted. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mike. I take back what I said about Bob. He got a new CD in there, so that's great. And I think that's all I had this evening. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.